My name is Michael Blatherwick. I'm the CEO, Chairman of DynamicsPact. I'm joined this morning by Hasse Bergmann, who is the CEO of Scales, our Danish member. Good morning, Hasse. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Mike. I hope you're well as well.
Not too bad, thank you. Spring is coming, so
yeah, it is.
Hopefully brighter days, and
yeah,
we can look forward to the future. Yeah. So you were one of our founding members. We started AXPact as it was, later to become DynamicsPact back in 2004. We all met in Amsterdam at the supply chain conference there at one of the airport hotels. Talk to me about your early years and how you got into ERP as a career.
Yeah, so historically I've just been the geeky guy of the class, so always did programming on whatever even remotely resembled a computer, CX Spectrum and Lambda and Amstrad. And then after my high school time, I studied computer science combined with business economics. So it was, of course, it would have been an obvious choice going in the ERP direction. But the actual truth is that it's a coincidence that I started out being a developer on the very first platform inside the product family called XAL in that point in time. So I was just being a developer, and then things took up pace from there, and I moved into AX Accepta and now D365 Finance and Operations, which is the big brother for XAL, so to speak. So that's my personal history on how I got involved in this.
And you started with your own business, HOB or HOB, based in Copenhagen, and you lived the dream, really. You built that up, you sold it to one of the big boys, and then you started again.
Yeah, that's true. So back in March '98, together with a couple of guys I met in high school, we started HOB. Drove that business for close to 9 years. Got a decent offer from Avalanche, one of the big guys in the industry still, owned by Accenture. Stayed on board there for 4 years, and then we got the idea that we could combine what we learned from one of the really big consultancies, both Avalanche and Accenture, with the agility and in-depth knowledge that we thought that we could provide to the market. That's the basis for establishing Scales 10 years ago.
And whilst D365 has grown as a platform and a tool set for business applications, your focus is still very much F&O, finance and operations.
Yeah, so basically we want to address projects or implementations where F&O is the core of the project. But Microsoft has bolted on a lot of new systems and technologies like Azure in the bottom, like Power Platform, CE or CRM for the sales, Power BI for reporting. All of those technologies, surely we utilize them in the projects, but we would never address a standalone BI project. It always needs to come out of an FO context.
Yeah, so that's the core of everything you do.
Definitely, yes.
Okay, and one of the things through your illustrious and very successful career has been your connection with AXPact and then DynamicsPact. Explain from a CEO, a member's perspective, what you get out of that connection and being part of DynamicsPact.
Yeah, so the reason for us joining AXPact, as it was called back in 2004, was that we already in the early 2000s experienced that even smaller customers have international either aspirations or presence. Being a local player, strong local player, and wanting to present the customer how to do a rollout, even if it's only 2 or 3 countries, it's a difficult presentation. You will always try to tell them that we can do it in our neighbor countries, but what about China? What about India? What about Brazil? Blah blah blah. So basically, we wanted to take off that difficulty in winning the interesting customers by having our own, or at least through a network, delivery capability at a global scale. It's an obvious choice back in 2004 to join AXPact and now DynamicsPact. Since then, it has been, I wouldn't say, maybe 50% of our customers, at least 50% of our customers, maybe more, even 70% of our customers, we present the story about DynamicsPact, and we're not even, it's not like we're just presenting it, we're actually using it as a key lever for actually winning the customer, telling the customer we got the best feet on the ground in more than 45 countries, distributed around more than 200 offices. So even if the company grows, our potential customer, over the next decade or 5 years, and if they want to move into some specific country or region, we are a safe bet for actually also being able to deliver rollout capacity or implementation capacity in that region, that country. That story resonates with the customers, not because we tell it, because we also have, I think, more than 25 references for whom we already done this. Brilliant. In different setups.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that is really a key, and it's gotten to the point where Microsoft appoints international customers to Scales, even though Scales is a Danish company. But if an international customer out of Denmark wants the best international capability, they go to Scales. They don't go to the global providers, because the global providers, even if they have good people in 7 countries, what about the 35 lacking?
Yeah, and a big part of that is that people like you are so committed to the organization, and you collaborate at CEO level, at technical lead level, delivery lead level, and we build those peer networks and trust, which works really well. It does. But obviously the pandemic has thrown up challenges. We can't meet like we do at the Microsoft conferences and with clients. Thank goodness for the technology. We both look like air traffic controllers, but other than that,
it's good that the pandemic didn't happen 25 years ago, right? Or earlier.
I don't think we would have coped. Yeah. But yeah, the cloud and technology. But how have you seen the excuse me? How have you seen the marketplace react to the pandemic and also evolve and change within the pandemic?
So I guess we had more or less the same situation that I would guess that would be the same for most countries. So in Denmark, we had our strong lockdown the first week of March, second week of March 20. And of course, we knew what was coming. So we'd seen it a couple of weeks before. And from a very, we had the most busy months of our, at that point in time, 9-year existence. That was actually the first months of last year, 2020. But all the pre-sales activities, all the RFPs, the potential deals, potential add-on to existing contracts, they were more or less halted from one day to another in March. But the funny thing is that it only lasted maybe 1.5 months. That was only for reorganizing, for getting a bit of insights into how dramatic is this and stuff like that. So 2 things happened. We just signed, I think, less than a month before the lockdown, we signed 2 big contracts where we were going into relatively complex analysis phases, covering more than 9 months of analysis, both of them. And we were just, okay, new customer engagement, going virtual. In the analysis phase, this is really going to be difficult. But both customers luckily said the same. We can't postpone. We are just going to do this. And even though it's new people from both sides and for a new system, we just need to dive into these issues. And it turned out that we actually met all the deadlines and all the metrics and all the deliverables, whatever, even working more than 90% remotely with new customers. From a sales perspective, what happened was that already mid-April, things were back to normal, just working virtually and even doing sales presentations virtually, RFPs without ever meeting the customer face-to-face, besides through Zoom or Teams. So we actually picked up the pace and was back to normal business by the first week of June. Everything was normalized. And since then, it's just been increasing our business dramatically. So it was like a brief halt and then full force ahead again.
If I may, tell me, we've talked about the business. Tell me a bit about you and, you know, where you live, what you do, what you do outside of work.
So I guess I'm a typical Dane. So living in the suburbs of Copenhagen, north of Copenhagen. I have a beautiful family, 3 girls, 10, 13, 15. It's busy days, and with all the homeschool stuff like that, it's really funny. I'm really much into sports, both watching and also myself. I used to be an elite sportsman myself until 15 years ago, but still try to stay a bit in shape.
You're being modest. You were an elite volleyball player. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was also, again, by coincidence. It's really funny that some of the biggest things in your life is always by coincidence and not by deliberate choice, right? Like your wife or whatever. But volleyball, it was just the sport played at that high school. I was there. It was not deliberate. I just turned up one day and started out. I played it in the school as well, but turned out I had a talent, so I trained more and more, and ended up being in the elite of the Denmark, and also played the national teams for a couple of seasons. But that was at the same point in time when we founded HOB. So it took a lot of time.
So you had to make a choice. You sacrificed the volleyball for the business eventually.
Yeah, eventually I did. But I think my knees actually helped me do that choice, because the knees are really just being killed doing maximal jumps around 2,500 to 3,000 jumps per week. It really wears down your knees.
Yeah. Okay.
Right now I just enjoy running, skiing, hiking, biking, everything outdoors.
Hey, you live in a beautiful place. Denmark is one of my favorite countries, and hopefully when we can travel again and you know, I know what you've talked about in terms of how we've coped, but we can never replace those sort of get-togethers and conferences in person.
Oh, we really long for that.
Yeah, hopefully that'll come back.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful talking to you. I appreciate you giving us an insight into your life in Dynamics. And you know, fascinating career, highly successful career. Just one final question, if I may. If you could go back to, you know, before you started and you were that sort of geek programmer, you know, thinking about what to do for a job, if you could give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think the best advice to give myself, and I think that was something that we never learned or never were able to do in our first business. That is to be able to delegate responsibility and actually take the chances on trusting people to do well, even though you always think that you're the best guy yourself, but you are not necessarily. Or if that's the case, you'll never grow. You'll never grow a business without delegating. So I think we could have done our first business in a totally different scale if we had that mindset, not being into all bits and pieces and details. So that was a prerequisite for the foundation of Scale. So Scales is now 160 people. The first business never passed 35 people, even 9 years into the journey. Scales already passed the 140 people milestone. I think after 7 years, then we started something in Norway, sold it back, and blah blah blah. But nevertheless, the only way of scaling a business like the type of business that we do is actually, of course, get the right people and then trust them. Really trust them, and if they then try to not be as controlling and micromanagement as I was in the first years of my career.
Yeah, no, I love that.
I think
that is the voice of experience. Hasse, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mike.
I will see you soon like this, I'm sure, but hopefully we'll also share a cold one somewhere, preferably warm soon as well.
Yeah, looking very much forward to that, Michael.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.